Happy Wednesday. It is hump day. This is Frank Rock. This is your House of Orange Sports channel coming at you. Just released a basketball video talking about what I saw yesterday or took away from videos from interviews yesterday. But I've got a topic that I come up with. I've seen this debated for a few years since Josh Heupel's been in Knoxville. Uh, want to kind of take a break from the position previews. Other outlets are doing them. I get it out there. I like to do my own to kind of throw my own little bit into them. I don't look at their previews. Definitely don't prior to doing my own. I try to do them based on my own research, what I got coming back. But the one topic, and debated it for a few years. I think we debated it when I was on Talking Vols. I've debated it just with other people. I'll debate it again now. And I posed the question, and I come to this video with potential answers on it. It is, can a Josh Heupel coached football team have a top-notch defense? Can they have a top-ranked defense? Can they have a shutdown defense? People have been adamant over the few years Josh Heupel's been here. They said there's no way. With the speed that he goes, it does not allow the defense enough time to rest. Therefore, they're going to gas. They're going to drain out. They're going to be done. They're not going to be able to hold teams down. It's not possible for this team to have a top-notch defense. So I'm going to look into that theory on it. So if we look at the first few years, you think about what the defenses have been. You think about who's played. You think about their positions, each position. As Josh Heupel's now going on his fourth year at Tennessee, and we look at, his first year, they went 7-6. Some discrepancies out of that bowl game. Second year, 11-2. Heck of a year. Orange Bowl victory. The one blemish on that season was the South Carolina game. Last year, they go 9-4. There were some blemishes last year. Let's make no mistake about it. But was the defense at fault? I don't know if that's the case or not. We can look back at that South Carolina game 2 years ago. That defense was absolutely at fault. You give up over 60 points to a pedestrian team like South Carolina. They were a pedestrian offense. But all of a sudden, they play two top 10 teams in Tennessee and Clemson. And they're all of a sudden Spencer Rattler looks like the next coming of Peyton Manning or something. There is speculation out there that Michigan gave South Carolina a hand on that one. And until you don't just be that bad and all of a sudden become that good in a week's time against two top. You just don't. I'm sorry. I'm going with it. I'm not a conspiracy theory guy on anything in life, but that is one I will fully buy into because they were not that good. They were nowhere near that good up until that game. But looking back on the first season, there were some games, the defense did not enable the offense to win. Now, there have been games where the defense has enabled the offense where they've done their job on as well. They did it some last year as well. For a Josh Heupel team, you got to think they're not going to slow down. They rarely ever slow down. At the end of games, at the end of half, they may slow it down a little bit at that point. But, people will say, can Josh Heupel have that defense? No, he can't. I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm going to play both sides. And then I'm going to play this side first. You're going up down the field, especially with this offense this year with Nico. They're going to have a strong offensive line. I've previewed both of those. I'll put those at the end of the video. I haven't previewed the skill positions yet, nor have I previewed the tight ends. Tight end depth should be solid, but unproven down here. Wide receivers, I'm excited about the wide receiver. I'm excited about the running backs. There's home run potential in both of those units. With Dylan Sampson and his speed, with Squirrel White, with Chris Brazzell, with Dante Thornton, I think all those guys are home run threats. Brew McCoy is going to be brute McCoy, basically. He's not out there for speed. He's solid. He's a good wide receiver. He'll make catches. He'll get extra yards and stuff. Chris Brazzell, we saw a sign of it in the orange and white game. He had over 1,000 yards at Tulane. Dante Thornton, we saw it a little bit at the end of the year before he got hurt. We saw it against Missouri when he had the touchdown. Squirrel White, we've seen it out of him for a couple years. He can get loose as well. I haven't even factored in Mike Matthews. I've not factored in Braylon Staley, who's a burner as well. I've not factored in any other guys. I look at the offense. I look at the running backs. Dylan Sampson, burner. Cam Selden, when he's healthy, This dude can get up and go too. He can take it to the house. I think based on what we see out Peyton Lewis, he's another guy they're high on that ability, take it to the house. This offense, especially with this offensive line, if it stays healthy, is going to strike quick, which is going to tax the defense, which is not going to allow them basically to get the breathers that they needed. So, there's the part where people will say it's not possible for that defense to be good or to be consistently good under Josh Heupel. But here's the answer to that question, though. I'm playing that standpoint on it because this offense either scores so quick or it's normally off the field pretty quick. Their 3 and outs happen fast. I mean, it seems like a number of seconds, and then they're punting the football when it happens. I don't think they're going to be stopped a lot this year, though. But, I mean, obviously they're going to have to punt some. With that said, you look at the defensive secondary, you look at the linebackers, you look at the defensive line. That defensive line is going to be loaded. I'll talk about that later when I get to it. I think there's still questions in those linebacker and secondary units. So is it reasonable to expect a top-notch defense? I don't know. But here is the key, and here's the answer to my question. Yes, it is absolutely possible to have a top-notch defense with this speed, with this style, with this Josh Heupel offense. It is absolutely possible. The reason it's not been possible over the last 3 years, and there's one word for that, depth. Tennessee has not had the depth for this defense to be successful, to be top-notch, to be top-ranked, to be consistently good and shut down over the long haul. You have to build that depth in the program. That's where they're at. The defensive line, I saw it today. They have 19 guys on scholarship on that defensive line. Tennessee has not had defensive line depth like that since the early 2000s. And I don't know if they had that much in. Now, their quality was extremely high during that time. They've had quality defensive linemen over the years at all points. They've always had at least a quality defensive lineman, if not numerous. But the depth of it, since Rodney Garner, since this staff has gotten to Knoxville, Rodney Garner's continued building. He's built through recruiting. He's built through the portal as well. They're always adding at least a guy through the portal for depth. I think it's brilliant. I think it's a brilliant philosophy. They don't necessarily, I think, have to have that guy through the portal, but it continues adding veteran presence like they added Jackson Moy from Stanford this offseason. Last year, they added Omar Norman-Lott from Arizona State. But you factor that in with your guys are adding through recruiting. I'm just thinking over the years, like your James Pierce, who's going to be big time expectations. Joshua Josephs are expecting a jump from him. Caleb Herring. You've got Jordan Ross, who you just brought in. That's just the tip of Omari Thomas. You're adding Devin Hobbs. All these guys you add just over the years. Dominic Bailey. I'm just Bryson Eason. Guys off the top of my head. There is so much depth on that defensive line. Where Tennessee. It really where the key to them becoming that defense is in your back 2 units, your back 2/3 here. So I'm going to look at today, and this is not a preview, but defensive back. There's going to be questions. There were so many guys that left through the portal. How do they add? There's safety questions. Who's going to start at safety? You're going to have your candidates, Andre Turntine, Jermod McCoy, Turntine transferred in 2 years ago, Ohio State. He's going to be a starter, I really feel like. Jermod McCoy transferred in this past season from Oregon State. He was considered a great pickup for them. You add in at safety, possibly a John Slaughter, a guy who come in a couple years ago. Christian Charles, who redshirted last year, is going to play some safety. You add in Edris Farouk from Baltimore, who will be a true freshman. Does he factor in? Could Boo Carter go back? Boo Carter, man, I think this dude's got a lot of capability this year, and I'm excited to see where he fit in. Believed he'll be like your nickelback, your star, they call it, but I'm wondering if his playmaking ability could translate back to safety. And a guy they're talking about to walk on, Will Brooks. So, you look at it, a walk on, is that the best situation? I don't know that it is. I'll be honest, that doesn't really give me doesn't give me a lot of confidence about it, but you see it occasionally. Walk-ons come in, they earn their spot, they put in that time, they get better. I don't know ability-wise. I don't know much about the guy. We know that Tim Banks, Willie Martinez, they like experience in the secondary. In the bowl game, they were forced to play youth. How do they go with their secondary? That's a thing the last couple years I've had a beef with when Tennessee has had these big leads, and yet starters are playing well into the fourth quarter. When the game's well in hand, you've got the best way you're going to get these guys improvement. Yeah, it's surely on the practice field, but you see it in actual game scenarios. That's been my big beef with playing your starters deep into the fourth quarter. I don't like it when a game's in check. I don't like it. I do not like it at all. I hope this year in this Chattanooga game, this first game of the year, I want to see a lot of guys playing that game. I don't need to see Nico in the game in the fourth quarter. I don't need to see, Andre Turrentine, if he's a starter, in the game in the fourth quarter. Sure, these guys with less experience need reps. You also need to get depth. You need to build depth through these games as well. Your corners, there's going to be a lot of talent in these corners for sure. If I go down the line with these corners, Ricky Gibson, I think he's going to be a projected starter. That's Jordan Thomas. Could Jordan Thomas play safety possibly? From what I've read, he's going to project into that nickel star. Christian Harrison, son of Rodney Harrison. Does it translate for him? Jalen McMurray, transfer from Temple. Jacoby Thomas, transfer from Middle Tennessee State. Both these guys project as corners. Looking down the line, I mentioned Buchart. Jordan Matthews, redshirt freshman out of Louisiana, come in with a lot of hype. Caleb Beasley, Marcus Gorey. Both those guys are pretty highly thought of coming in. How do we get these young guys the depth that they need? I mean, I see a guy here who's, I'm sure, considered preferred walk-on, transferred in from Townsend, Andre Stewart, redshirt sophomore. You got Colin Brazel, who was Chris Brazel's brother, committed. He's defensive back in here as well. There seems to be talent in this secondary. What do they do with that talent? Are they able to develop it? Are they able to build that depth? And they'll look at the linebacking unit as well. These two units are key to me in determining how good this defense can be, getting to that level where you can kind of complement your offense. You're not going to win a national championship or even an SEC championship if you're scoring a ton of points but giving up a ton of points. So you've got to get to that point. With the Josh Heupel team, it's all about depth. That's the one reason it's not been consistent the last couple of years. Now, some of your teams that score on you have been more talented. Let's face it. But there were some games last year like Missouri. I thought the defense fought as hard. I didn't think the defense was perfect. Don't get me wrong. They did some things that I didn't like. I thought the game plan against Florida was horrible. Thought it was horrible. You allowed a pedestrian offense to basically light you up, and that was senseless. It was absolutely senseless. And some of that effort we saw in that game from that defense, it's not acceptable. But we look, with this linebacking unit, we've got Keenan Pili back to lead it. I love it. I think that's big for him. Who starts opposite him? People are high on Arion Carter. You got Caleb Perry. Man, I'm high on what I saw. Edwin Spillman, true freshman. Does he work his way into playing time now? Jeremiah Thielander, they've talked high on him. Jalen Smith is a redshirt freshman. Does he take a step this year? Trying to look here as well. Jordan Burns is a true freshman. I'm looking at scholarship guys. I'm not looking as much as your walk-on guys, even though we normally see walk-ons work their way up in some shape or form here. That's kind of where you're at. And I think for Tennessee, does that top-notch defense happen this year? I think they have the defensive line to do it. I don't know that they have the back two-thirds to do it yet. I think there's talent. I think there's top-tier talent in terms of Keenan Pili, who I think he'll do his thing. That secondary is unproven. Really, most of your linebacking core is unproven. I mean, it was set up last year with Pili and Aaron Beasley to be a really good linebacking unit. Pili gets hurt, and then they're playing guys. I mean, the linebacking unit was iffy, but it was a lot of inexperience last year. I think William Inge is the perfect guy to come in. You've got a guy, a relationship builder, a recruiter, a veteran guy who's been around, and a teacher. I'm not saying Brian Jean-Marie didn't. I've give Brian Jean-Marie his props, his credit for rebuilding this room. Now I think it's somebody take it to the next level. I'm not so sure we're not there with the secondary. Willie Martinez, it's crap or get off the porch. Crap or get off the pot for him this year. They let a lot of veterans go. I didn't have a problem with it. Now you're supposed to have all this talent, all this secondary. They talked about it media days. Josh Heupel talked about He's expecting these guys to take a step as the season goes along. For this team to get to that championship level, winning championship, it's going to depend on when this defense gets to that point that they can complement the offense. This offense is going to score. They're going to score for the foreseeable future. Especially they should score this year with all the talent they have on this offense. There's going to be talent on offense next year as well. That offensive line is going to be a question because you're losing at least 4 of your top 5 guys out of. How do they rebuild that line? Glenn Ellerby keeps progressing with this unit. It may not be an issue next year. I'm not saying that unit next year will be. Skill position players are going to be there. They're recruiting well. There's more talent coming in at wide receiver. They're going to bring in more running back and so on. Building that continued depth on defense. That's where we're at. Where do they keep adding there? That's going to be the key moving forward. That's going to be the key to Josh Heupel and Tennessee bringing hardware back to Knoxville. It is possible. One word, though, depth. That's what it's going to depend on. Will it happen this year? It might be asking a lot in terms of what other teams have coming back. Tennessee's preseason 7. I think it's low. I think they exceed that. I expect Tennessee to be in the playoff this year. They have the talent to be in the playoff this coming season. We'll see if they do it or not. Depth in the long term. What they're doing for the recruiting. Keep adding to it through the recruiting class. Keep adding through the portal. You're going to start seeing some hardware come in before too long. If you like the content, hit the thumbs up. If you like it as well, people that have not come across it, share it out. And if you have not already, hit that subscribe button as well. And you'll notice there's that join button. There's 3 tiers, $2.99, $4.99, and $9.99. You can read the perks for that. I'm setting up into I'll have a Patreon set up. If you just want to give $1 a month to help the channel, that'd be greatly appreciated. There is super chats, super thanks as well. All these do go in to help the channel as well. But we're going to shoot moving forward Monday nights, live show 7:30. That's going to be our norm moving forward. This week it didn't happen, just didn't. Basketball video was earlier today. Football, I'm going to go ahead and release it because this guy's heading out to have a day. I'm going to throw disc golf from about 2 o'clock until I'm either tired or it gets dark tonight, and I'm fired up about it. Cannot wait. But I hope you have a great day. Frank Rockhouse, Foreign Sports Channel. Last but most certainly not least, go Vols.
Everyone rejects me.